A lot of you guys asked me about what snare drums, what sticks, what muffling I use. Very particular about that stuff, so I wanted to just go through everything, my 8 pieces of snare drum gear that I use on a regular basis. I use them for auditions. I use them in my recordings for the Delacluse etudes. Usually they're my go-to for orchestra. So the first is the drums. I use Pearl Philharmonics. My 3 go-to drums are the 4x14 brass, my 4x14 aluminum, and my 4x13 maples. 4x14 brass, that's like my #1 go-to starter drum. That's the one that I use for the bulk of the etudes and the Delacluse. That's like my first go-to drum for orchestra. The thing about this drum is it's really tight and compact sound. I love it. That's consistent with all these drums. The difference between them is the 4x14 brass has a better crack. The aluminum, it's a little bit smoother and it sounds a little bit better for rolls. So if you're only going to get one, I really recommend starting with the brass. Then the 4x13 maple is the one I use for soft stuff. Like if I have just some really soft passages that I want super compact sounding and tight and to just cut through just right but not be overwhelming, that's what I use. I use it for like Scheherazade and Lieutenant Kiji and auditions. I used it for a few of the Delacluse etudes too, where there was a lot of soft playing, but ones where I even wanted a more compact sound and not such an overwhelming loud sound. All 3 of the drums I use pretty often, but this brass one is my favorite. For heads, I use pretty much like the thinnest thing that I can find. On top, I have a Remo coated Diplomat M5 batter head. It's like the thinnest thing I can find. 5 mil. Usually the Diplomats are 7 mil. The Ambassadors, I think they're 10 mil. The advantage of having a 5 mil is it speaks immediately. You play the sound and there's no waiting, you know, there's no delay. Even that tiny little delay affects the actual sound. You play the note, that you hear that tick and the attack, and then the snares immediately respond, and so the sound becomes more compact. That's on a very minute level. But the disadvantage is that the top head pretty much gets beaten down and you have to replace them pretty often. If I'm practicing for an audition, I have to replace the head like every 3 weeks, because in the 3rd week you start hearing it a little bit decline. Nowadays, if I'm practicing a little bit less, I can take longer in between changing the head. The bottom head is a Remo Hazy Diplomat snare side head. I'm pretty sure that this is also the thinnest bottom head that they have. I think it's the one that comes with the drum, and it's super thin and it's super responsive. It's the one where if you take it off, it kind of sounds like paper rattling. Really fine and sensitive to the thin snares that I use on the bottom. For my sticks, I use Innovative Percussion CL1Ls. Those are my go-to, the Chris Lamb laminated sticks. If I'm doing something soft, or usually if I'm playing on the smaller drum, the 4x13, I use these Chris Lamb CL3Ls. The problem with these right now is that I think Innovative is actually out of the wood, like the actual wood that they use to make the sticks. I haven't been able to get new ones from them for a while, but fortunately I still have a bunch that I'm working through, so possibly I might have to choose some new sticks at some point. This is the official Stradivarius of snare drum muffling. It is a 14x14 black handkerchief. Very simple, something you find at like any store. Go to the dollar store, I don't know. I just clip it on using these mini binder clips. These are from Office Depot. You don't want the small or the medium, you want the mini, and then you just clip it on and open it up. The handkerchief, you can actually open it up to different amounts. It's 14x14, so you could like cover the whole thing if you want. Fold it in half. I usually fold it in quarters and then just lay it on the first quarter of the drum. When someone else uses my drum at work or something, I find it folded over even once more to an 1/8, which has a little bit less muffling. Right here I use a little bit of Dr. Scholl's moleskin padding, and that's because like when I'm about to play, I want to take my sticks and I want to get a feel for the head, and I want to get a feel for how they are interacting with my hands, and these particular sticks, the weight, the length, the feel, the thickness, all of that, so that I can be a little bit more ready to play. So what I do is I lay my sticks on the moleskin and I kind of like push down with my hands into the sticks a little bit just to get a feel for them. Then I bring them down onto the head and play. But that's just a little bit of moleskin padding. You can get that at like a drugstore, Dwayne Reed, something like that. This is the Pearl Concert Snare Stand. It is the lightest weight stand that I've ever seen. Because my brass drum is a little bit heavy, but I don't need like double braced craziness. I just need an easy to use light stand that I can pick up and take with me. This one folds up into a tiny little thing, and I can just like carry it in one hand, drum in the other, or whatever. It fits in my bag, you can transport it easily, but most importantly, it's easy to pick up and it doesn't hurt your hands by how you're holding it. If you're trying to pick it up, you just stick your fingers through and hold it by this little black screw thing. It makes it really easy. Number 8 is my Humes & Berg square snare drum case. It has foam on the inside. I like the square case because you can line up the snare strainer into one of these corners so you know that it has space and it's not going to get crushed. If you put it in a circle shaped bag or case, you're not sure exactly which direction to put the snare strainer, and you're always thinking about exactly how you're going to lay down the snare drum in order to avoid the strainer, because you don't want to put any pressure there. This one, that doesn't really matter that much. I've taken my snare drum on a flight so many times, I've never ever had a problem with my snare drum on an airplane using this case. I was going to keep it to 8, but here's a 9th, and it's my favorite. It's actually this JG Percussion bottle key. It has 3 purposes. Number 1, it's a keychain. Number 2, it's a bottle opener. And number 3, it's a drum key. So it's kind of like the before and after of snare drum playing. Before you play snare drum, you use the drum key to tune your drum, and after you use the drum key to open a bottle of orange soda. If you want a list of all this stuff, I have it on a PDF for you, 3 pages long. It lists exactly the model numbers and all of that. You can get that at robknopper.com/gear. Thank you for watching. If you have more questions for me, let me know in the comments. Hit me a thumbs up if you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys in the next video.